me, February 10th, 2025. We'll start with roll call.
Amy Riddle Swanson.
Here.
Abe Smith.
Here.
Dominique Stewart. Rachel Henderson.
Here.
Dale Belkey.
Here.
Amber Kirsting.
Here.
Emily Hines.
Here.
Michelle Dupree.
Here.
Angela Wolf.
Here. All right, we have a quorum. I also just want to make a quick note, if anyone has trouble hearing and wants to try to move their chairs closer, they're welcome to do so. We don't have microphones tonight here. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. The flag is back. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our district, school districts of the Menomonie area, by embracing the unique needs and using the strengths of our diverse community, is dedicated to preparing all students to become lifelong learners, caring individuals, and responsible citizens. Do we have any proposed changes to the agenda order tonight? Seeing none, we have one commendation this evening for Casey Nash. Casey's going to come up. I'm going to run over there. You don't have to. I'm sorry. Casey did an outstanding job organizing the Smart Girls Rock event at the middle school. And I'm not reading now, I'm just saying I was able to attend for the first time and was blown away. So this is really true. Over 200 female students had the valuable opportunity to ask questions and connect with local professionals in STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics careers. Casey dedicated a significant amount of time to reaching out to presenters and coordinating this event for our students. We're incredibly grateful for Casey's hard work in inspiring the next generation of students in the STEAM field. So thank you, Casey. All right. Next up, we have our February highlight on youth.
Okay, thank you everyone for being here tonight. The highlight for youth, highlight on youth, is posted on board docs on the public site. We'll also be sharing it out on our social media page tomorrow. But it was another great month in the school district, and I'm not going to read through the entire thing, but there's a few things I'd like to point out. We'll start at the high school. First of all, the pep band has been playing at a number of home events, and they have just sounded awesome. They've also had some joint events with middle school students and alumni, and playing the national anthem and pep songs. It's really been enjoyable to see. The girls basketball team did a nice thing in honoring the officials during pregame warm-ups as part of a way to honor officials across Wisconsin. Also, the Menomonie High School peer partners and Mustang leadership classes hosted a basketball game to promote kindness and inclusivity in school with our adapted Ed class. And that's always a very, very special and neat event. The middle school had their first ever Pops concert. It had a beach theme, and I think you'll get a kick out of the pictures. Kids dressed up in beach attire and our teachers. And also, honors band and choir performed at UW Eau Claire. Downsville had Winter Festival, among other things, also a jump rope for heart unit. Knapp Elementary made ceramic containers in art class, and our Ed teacher, Mrs. Blomquist, had an ice skating event for all kindergarten through 5th grade Ed classes at the night at the Knapp ice skating rink. Oaklawn had a glow party dance. I know Mrs. Drout's here, that must have been quite a deal. And I was looking at this, and there's some neat pictures of kindergartners sledding. And the way winters have been so strange, you just wonder if 50 years from now they'll go back and look at this highlight on Youth Report for some reason and see kids sledding. Who knows if they'll still be doing that in 50 years. But then also some nice pictures of first graders working on measurement and math. River Heights, the books, blankets, and bingo family night was a huge success. Great performances by the 4th and 5th graders in their concert. And then also the Road Runner Rally, where students continue to exemplify respect, responsibility, and safety. At Wakanda Elementary School, they had Junior Ranger Night. I know several of you board members were able to attend. And that's always just a really special event with the students showcasing their national park projects. So again, it's been a great month. Great job by our staff, students. We have a lot to be proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have student representative communications. Welcome. Our student council member.
Good evening, members of the school board. We appreciate the opportunity to address you today and share some of the exciting developments happening within our school community. And you might have noticed that Max isn't here today. So, I'm Sarah Palmer. I'm filling in for Max today. I'm the junior class president. Congratulations to our National Ocean Science Bowl team. Enzo Parent, Jonathan Fosslin, Norris Marcheski, Emily Hunland, Peyton Sani, Allison Dickman, and Mackenzie Thatcher traveled to UW Milwaukee with Coach Cooper on January 31st and February 1st. On Friday, they visited the Ryman Aquarium and had great opportunities to network with researchers from the UWM School of Freshwater Science and their world-class facilities. On Saturday, they competed in an all-day quiz bowl with matchups against schools from across Wisconsin to Illinois and Missouri in the Lake Sturgeon Bowl Midwest Regional Competition. The team represented Menomonie well, earning 4th place overall. The team also received honorable mention for excellent sportsmanship. The MHS forensics team attended their first invitational of the season at Hudson High School on February 1st and earned 1st place. Many individuals on the team won awards in their respective categories, and it was a strong start to the season. This past Saturday, the 8th, was supposed to be the team's home tournament, but it was canceled due to the weather. The team is hoping to reschedule for Saturday, February 22nd. This weekend, the team will travel to Ellsworth for their second invitational of the season. The MHS forensics team is now offering a competitive debate team. Debate is included in our school's forensic membership, and the forensic coaches are working hard to expand their offerings to students. Our brand new debate team has 10 members who compete in 2 teams. The very first night of online competition was competing against teams in California, Wisconsin, Arkansas, and one of our 2 teams won their first debate. MHS Forensics hopes to continue offering once-a-month debate opportunities for our teams to grow in future years. Environmental biology students enter the annual Dunn County Conservation Poster Contest. MHS students earned the top 3 places at the county level, and Sakura Danforth's poster moved on and placed first at the West Central Area Contest. Sakura's poster will be forwarded to the State Conservation Poster Contest competition in Green Bay that takes place on March 5th through 7th. On Saturday, February 1st, the Menomonie High School Future Business Leaders of America members competed in the Region 1 competition at St. Croix Central High School. 33 schools and more than 450 students participated, competing in testing, speaking, and performance events. The Menomonie High School FBLA chapter received 1st place for the Community Service Award. FBLA members did an amazing job despite many bugs going around. The results are as follows. The 1st place went to Annabelle Weber in Introduction to Parliamentary Procedure. 3rd place for Elliot Risler in Introduction to Marketing Concepts. 4th place for Vista Marquette in Social Media Presentation. Kennedy Nolan in Business Communication. In John Shadow, and Tristan England in Intro to Business Communications. And that's all we have for today. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for being here.
And I'd also like to give a shout out to our students who are here tonight. You'll notice we have several of our students that are part of the senior internship program, and part of the requirements for that program is to attend a public meeting, city council, school board, whatever. I don't know why you guys didn't bring my son AJ. He has his requirement that has to happen too, so I'll have to ask him about that. But anyway, great to see you here tonight.
And we also have some students from Stout here, also attending a public meeting from the Family and Consumer Science Department.
Welcome.
So thanks everybody for being here. Next up, we have community communications. I have 2 speakers tonight. As you come up, you could either kind of sit in the place where the student council reps just left, or stand where you're comfortable. First off is Naomi Cummings.
Right here?
You bet.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for the work you do to support our students and ensure that they have a quality education. So thank you all. I think you are all familiar with the studies that show that LGBTQ youth have a higher rate of suicide than other kids. Our current school policies have stressed the need to support all students, and I applaud you all for that. I am concerned, however, that the message they are currently hearing from government officials and representatives is that they are less than human and not respected for the person that they are. I am a mother of 5 kids and grandmother to 9. I care about the community and the country that they are all growing up in. I am also the mother of a daughter who took her own life. I know how devastating and painful that is, not only to the family who loved them, but everyone who knew that person or whose lives they have touched. I would encourage you as school board members and staff to continue to support our LGBTQ students. Their very lives depend on it. All of our children should feel valued and respected. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next speaker is Mike Cooper.
Good evening. This evening, you will discuss changing the Lockland gender policy. Good for you. It is a step in the right direction. A big thank you to President Trump for making gender sanity a policy. This is a great start. Hopefully this district and all districts across the country can turn away from this destructive ideology and be focused on the traditional role of the school district, focusing on such things as reading, writing, and arithmetic, U.S. civics, and history. I am sure that you have read the President's executive order titled Protecting Children from Chemical and Surgical Mutilation. You can use this action and other related ones as a guide to changing the school policy from one of enabling children to make short-sighted decisions that assume regret for the rest of their lives, to encouraging parents and their children to work together to solve their personal mental health issues. Another focus should be on the 5-year plan of seriously reforming or deleting the SEL focus. Thank you.
Report for the month ended January 2025.
Yeah, start as usual. Start with the revenue report. The district, as you can see, when you compare with last month, it started receiving Fund 10 levy payments. These amounts will increase significantly in the next report as additional townships and municipalities continue to submit their payments. We've also received another equalization aid payment in January, which is also reflected in the report, and it's increased, of course, from the report last month. Just as a reminder, we can expect our third payment on or around March 24th, and then the fourth, final, and largest payment comes in June. Additionally, we've gotten a little bit more grant funding. I will be submitting more grant claims in the coming months to ensure these disbursements. My goal in the next few weeks is to really concentrate on getting those grant claims in. Any questions with the revenue before I move on to the expense report?
I would like to point out, so as Eric talked about with the revenue, we're just now receiving tax levy payments, and Eric also talked about the equalization aid payments, with the largest one coming in June. When we talk about the need to be fiscally responsible and the need to have a fund balance, that really is it. I mean, if you think about school starting in September and operating all this time, and really a lot of the revenue is not coming in until the second semester, we have to have cash flow in order to operate. So I know some people are concerned with fund balance and the need for it. Without it, we would be borrowing short-term, either through line of credit or short-term notes. And that would just be thousands of dollars that could be in the classroom being spent on paying interest. So thank you for pointing that out, Eric.
And then moving on to the expense by object report. No real changes from last time in this report. The one thing though I would like to comment on is the benefit expenditures. So we're more than halfway through our fiscal year, and the benefit expenditures percentage-wise is just up just very little bit, about not even 1%. And then also, if you compare just with monetary amounts, it's actually down from last year at this point. So it's something that I'm going to continue to monitor, to keep track of. I know we had some changes this year, starting in January, so I'm going to really monitor the benefits and hopefully these trends continue.
Do you think the change in that benefits amount is mostly from our health insurance benefit, or are there other places as well?
I think it's mostly from the health insurance. And then as far as the expense by function, I didn't see any significant changes or unusual trends to report other than items that I reported before during board meetings. So yeah, any other questions with the expense report?
Looks like none. Thank you. Next up, we have our monthly employment report for the month of January. We have congratulations to a long-time clerical staff leaving us at the end of the school year, to Kelly Steinmeier and Kate Wolf.
That's going to be hard to replace. Both Kelly and Kay have really done a great job serving the district, and we're going to miss them, but we certainly wish them well in their retirements.
I know, Mike. But, and then a few other, couple of resignations and a number of hires in that employment report. Any questions about the employment report? None. We will move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. I move. Motion by Emily, second by Michelle. Here we have minutes from our regular board meeting of January 13th and a special board meeting of January 27th. We have general fund checks in the amount of $3,047,346.19 and cash receipts in the amount of $5,033,339.27. We have had a lot of donations exceeding $1,000 this month. $2,312 in donations from parents and local businesses to the Wakanda 5th grade field trip. We also had just over $4,000 in teacher mini grants, which was a program sponsored through the Community Foundation of Dunn County. These were throughout the county, but here in Menomonie, we had grants for an ELL program in Riverside, elementary libraries for shelving, $800 for the MHS Chemistry and Physics Department for updated classroom equipment, ELL program at our middle school for Hispanic Latino Heritage Project, and for the Oakmont Elementary School for the Just Breathe Enhancing Learning Through Classroom Mindfulness Breaks project. So a big thanks to the Community Foundation for supporting the program, and I'm glad so many of our teachers were able to use it. And then we also had $8,568 in grants from the Menomonie Foundation for the high school science department, elementary libraries, high school band, and middle school music. Any questions about the consent agenda?
Rachel, I'd like to just give a real thanks to those people who applied for all those grants for science or band or whatever those were. It's always an extra load of work, and much appreciated.
Yeah, big thanks to our
And
teachers.
another grant donation that didn't appear this month, but sometimes does, is from our booster club. And I had the opportunity to attend their cribbage tournament, and not only am I impressed with how much the Booster Club helps our programs, but I was really impressed with local communities that donate to the cause, and I say that to encourage everybody to support our local communities, our local Congress and whomever. It was really much appreciated.
thanks for pointing that out. I think this long list of donations really represents the effort not only of those community organizations, the teachers doing them, and then the community for supporting them. Okay. Any other questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, we'll vote. All right, motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have the personnel consent agenda. We'll entertain a motion to approve the personnel consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Andy, second by Dominique. We have just one hire this month for our assistant director of nutrition. Any questions or discussion on the personnel consent agenda?
Rachel, I would just like to point out this is an internal promotion. And we love it when we have the opportunity for people to earn internal promotions. I know Mr. Kennedy is sad to lose sometimes out of the current position, but we know that this is good for the district, and Amanda certainly has earned it, and we know she'll do a great job.
All right, and I think we're ready to vote. The motion passes unanimously. Moving on to the action agenda, we have one item on our action agenda tonight regarding the Title IX policy. I'll entertain a motion.
So I would move to rescind the changes we made on September 23rd, 2024, to policy 113, which revert to the previous version that was in effect up to September 22nd, 2024 last year. And I think the only other change other than that rescinding is updating the contact information for Tony and Sam that needs to be updated.
So Dave has made a motion. Give a second.
I'll say
Motion by Abe, second by Dale. Any questions or discussion?
I do want to mention that this relates to various federal policies and agencies. And later I might want to, I think we should reiterate some of the values and mission and vision of our district. And so I think I'll bring it up in a separate agenda item later in the evening. I just want to mention that it is worthy of our time to reinforce the values of our district in a time of turmoil.
I am not in favor of doing that. I'm conscious and my heart not wanting to discriminate against any of our students. I've been and many of these executive orders are being shut down by the judicial branch, and I feel like this is probably one of them that will come up eventually. I just can't do it.
I had to work hard to remove my emotions from this. It's a difficult thing to do, but when I just tried to think of this as what is in compliance with the law, then I swayed myself to that I would think I will be voting yes, just because if we don't, then we literally have no Title IX policy in our district, and that's a problem.
If I could make one clarifying point. So this rescinding to a previous policy, which again was in effect until mid-September of 2024, is not in response to various statements. It is in response to a clear legal decision by a federal judge on a law that was duly passed by Congress. So I definitely hear what you're saying, Amy. I think those concerns we can address clearly and forcefully. But I think that this particular rescinding of a policy that's been in place since, again, only 3.5 months does not materially affect the work our district does for our students.
I would just like to piggyback on what Michelle said. It is not a law. It's a strictly not a law. It's not a law. There has to be clarification later coming down. There's going to be lots of lawsuits. Also, there was a document that was shared in our board docs for the audience to not know. You've seen it, you know this. There was a lawyer that says that we need to stay status quo and with our curriculum and so forth and everything, because there's so much chaos and there's not any clarity on these bills or these executive orders. And I just feel like we need to give it time to work it out. I think we need to buy some time. I respect the opinion of all of you, but I'm going to vote for my conscience.
All right, can we vote?
Can I just ask for clarification? So our current policy, it's based on regulations that have been invalidated. Is that correct? In a court law?
Correct.
Okay. So if we operate on those, if we operate on our current 2024, which is changed in the fall, if we operate on that, are we or are we not in compliance? That's what I need to know.
We are not.
So our school district will not be in compliance with Title IX policy if we wait for all of the chaos to stop, because we won't. Okay, that's our reality, and it's, I don't like it any more than you do. And I have feelings that the same as yours, Amy. I'm just concerned about being in compliance.
I think that's a good point, and it highlights what Abe mentioned, that this issue in particular stems from a court decision rather than an executive order.
This policy change would be required regardless of whatever EOs are happening and other things in the world. This is about a response to a particular final federal court judgment that is no longer contested. And that's legal opinions have been fairly concise and clear about our course of action.
So I understand that because we have sort of a custom motion, we're going to do a vote to support this. Is that right? Do you want to do this? Okay.
Amy Riddle Swanson,
No.
Abe Smith,
Yes.
Dominique Stewart,
Yes.
Rachel Henderson,
Yes.
Dale Dahlke,
Yes.
Amber Kirsting,
Yes.
Emily Hines,
No.
Michelle Dupree,
Yes.
Angela Wolf,
Yes. That motion passes 7-2. All right, thank you, everybody. On to the discussion agenda. Our first discussion item is a review of the 2025-26 Menomonie High School course recommendations.
Mr. Seguin and Mr. Drake have been working on this along with the team at the high school, so Brian, go ahead and take it away.
So this is the first review of course recommendations at the high school. In this case, it is limited specifically to courses that are being recommended for next school year to run under the enrollment number 15, which would be the minimum threshold for us to run a course without running forward to the board. This year's list has 5 courses by comparison to last year. Last year we came forward with a recommendation of 7 courses to run. Generally speaking, There are courses that would have enrollments up in the 10 to 14 range. So you can see the courses as well as the enrollment number at the present time. It is possible that as a high school, we will through the process of some initial rescheduling for courses that aren't running, because the enrollment numbers are too low, that some of these other courses may grow. And also as they get into the scheduling process, and there are schedule conflicts that sometimes will crop up, some of these numbers will also potentially grow. So it's possible between tonight and the next board meeting when these come forward, that some of these courses end up being removed from the list, not because we're no longer recommending that they run it, because the enrollment number has gotten over 15, so they come off the list in that case. Again, tonight is just the initial presentation of what those courses are. As you go through, you can see that in the math department, there's one course, being calculus, music theater department, 2 courses, advanced theater and music theory, in the FIED and health department, water safety and lifeguarding. That one has a low cap on it because of some of the requirements associated with that. This is the one that students to be certified to be a lifeguard with that. And then the social studies department is one course, world history, 500 plus is in the class. That is being recommended at this time. So if there are any questions, your case are otherwise they'll come back in a couple of weeks.
Does the water safety and lifeguarding often serve as a pipeline to get into lifeguards?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
So is this what you're hoping for? Is this your wish list or just or requests? How should I understand this?
So these are the courses that have enrollments of less than 15 currently that after leaving the high school we are recommending be approved at the next board meeting.
What happens like so say math, AP Cal, there's 11 right now. What happens with these 11 kids if we don't run this course?
Good question. So students will then be contacted by their student counselor, have the opportunity to enroll in one of the alternate picks. Students also have the opportunity to apply either to early college credit or college now, courses that they in some cases, students will have to look at virtual options as well. But when we take a look at numbers like this, we're trying to run them in person if we can, if they're doing this.
Who incurs the cost if they take it through the college? It's just
The student.
school.
There's only one student.
Are there classes that, where students end up that were less than 15 minutes class don't end up on the list?
Yes. In some cases, there'll be classes, and usually not very many of them, but they'll have an enrollment of 5 or less. In most cases, most courses run. We're trying to get them above 10 minutes close to class.
And then you mentioned some of these classes might not appear on the list when you vote on it in 2 weeks, but you don't anticipate adding any more. Okay, so 5 of these added.
If you have to work happen.
Any more questions for Brian about the courses requested to go on under 15? I really appreciate all the work that goes into making sure some of these courses are available, especially things like the advanced classes that a lot of work are probably counting on me. Next up, we have a discussion of the compensation plans for 2025 and 2026.
So now that we're in the second semester, planning for next year is really ramped up. And part of that planning is developing a compensation plan. The Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission has shared the Department of Revenue calculation for the Consumer Price Index adjustment that's relevant to July 1st, 2025 contracts. This year, the CPI is 2.95. That's a little bit lower. It's actually quite a bit lower than what the CPI had been the last few years. Last year was 4.12. The good news is that the CPI is still high enough to provide integrity to the pay systems that we have in our district. And what I mean by that is teachers and hourly staff members that have earned a step increase. The CPI, the new dollars created by the CPI, would cover all the steps in our pay scales. In addition, the teacher pay scale would increase by $650 per cell. Our starting teacher pay would increase to $49,505 and top out at $83,533. That does not include any longevity incentives or any coaching, advising, summer school pay, etc. All teachers who earn a promotion by receiving an evaluation of effective or better would receive an increase between about $1,150 and $2,221 based on the plan that is in front of the board. With the hourly pay scale, we would also provide step movements for all the earned steps in the hourly pay scale and increase wages by 46 cents per hour for all hourly wages. Most hourly employees that earn a step would see annual compensation increases between $1,682 and $2,579. The employees who already have received those steps, their increases would be $623 to $950. The increased hourly pay across the district to range between $18.15 to $33.31 per hour, depending on experience and the employment classification. So typically what our district has done is use the CPI as a guidance mark for evaluating and determining a compensation plan. The total compensation increase in this plan would increase expenses in the budget by $733,297, plus any payroll benefits that would apply. So it's a hefty expense, but we know that we have to have a good staff. We know that we have to compensate our staff well. We know we need to stay competitive. Our salaries and wages are regionally competitive, and I think by staying up with the CPI, that certainly will help us remain competitive. Any questions, comments?
Can I just have a very concise description of Article 1, 2, 3?
Sam?
So clerical one will be our building clerical. So they do not work year-round. They leave their buildings and they would be working during the school year. Clerical 2 then would be jumping to somebody who works year-round. And they would, in various locations, so it could be at the district office in the buildings. We have one in each of our high school and middle school. And then clerical 3 is kind of that next level. And so they're kind of level based on responsibilities, based on confidentiality, based on reporting, a number of different factors that go into that. They are also, clerical 3 would also be year-round. And again, all of our clerical 3 work at ASC. Thank you.
When this was discussed at the community last week, one thing that came up is that we are, I think, cautiously optimistic this year. Our health insurance premiums are going to be stable and not go up at all. Or I think a little bit in that way, even though the CPI is lower, teachers or staff, I guess, are hopefully keeping more of it. But then we have a lot 2 years and some bigger than high health insurance premium increase.
I think that's my main concern when it comes to staff compensation. I think the compensation plan is for that is great. I think every time we get C, we should get CPI, and I think this will be. But we have had now, I guess, sort of 3 years of rapid health insurance premium increases, and and doing our best to make sure the plans are adaptable and stem that reduce that the increase. But I've always been worried about if over time the cost of health insurance rises more rapidly than overall compensation. The net effect can be negative. And so I think we're not quite in that spot yet, but I always want to keep an eye on it. And then possibly make sure that staff compensation genuinely is to their benefit over time.
Appreciate the work that's done. You're awesome. Very thankful.
Steve, I really appreciate your comments, but I agree. Everything you think about. So I was wondering, we talked about interface for, to get the proper evaluation, and you indicated how much that would increase your compensation. And figure out what if they don't get recommended for that. What if they don't get that?
That's a great question. And I think that's a misconception that some people have about how schools work, especially in Menomonie. Just because a teacher is in the district for another year does not automatically result in a raise. People need to be performing. People need to be meeting expectations. Now, the good news is that our staff, almost everybody each year is doing a great job. But if there's a situation where there are performance concerns and a plan of improvement is in place, then the wages or salary are frozen at that level until performance improves. But a vast majority of our staff earn their increase each year.
And when we talk about earning that increase, for teachers that's indicated here, which is using an effective educator system, evaluation, getting a rating, effective or higher, is there a similar system for hourly?
The hourly employees are evaluated as well. I wouldn't say it's similar in the fact that the educator effectiveness system is really mandated by the state. However, it is rigorous and it's appropriate to their job responsibilities. So in that way, it's
Any additional questions or discussion on the compensation plan? In the employee comp, there's a column of issues.
that just gives a little more description to that classification. And for instance, with our teachers, we have 258 teachers, and we would anticipate 234 step enrollments. Is that what you mean?
Based on the number of years they've been in the
Based on the number of people that will be moving to another step in the scale.
I guess I won't, I'm confused by the label.
Yeah, maybe that could be a different label. I think that's been a label that's been used here since before I came.
So it's just pointing out that with the recommended plan, there will be two different work.
Yes. Sometimes there are other things to list there, but this year it's just step enrollments. Yeah, we should look at changing the name.
Because these don't really represent problems.
It's not meant to have a negative connotation.
So do you anticipate this coming back for both leagues, or do you think they are still thinking?
I'm not hearing any concerns or directives. We also had a QIC meeting with our staff last Monday, and I point blank asked the staff, do you feel there's a need to, take a deeper dive into our pay systems? And we've done that so often, so much. There really wasn't that feedback. The regional all we did.
No.
So at this point, yeah, I think what you could expect in 2 weeks would be, the recommendations come forward for your approval.
I have one question that cannot be answered tonight, but I am curious for like the hourly wage. What is the accurate to assume that an employee who's been there for 20 years is level 5? Or no? So that's something I would be curious maybe for the next meeting when we approve this. To know, do we have employees who have been here for a certain amount of time, but like, I don't know if grandfathered in is the right term, but they're not actually level 5.
And Sam can follow up on this. Generally, yes. But there are situations through internal promotion where people move on the scale in that promotion where that may affect their longevity piece and where they are in that classification. Sam, is there a better way to explain that?
Well, if someone, let's say like you're acting up, so if someone were to move into, like a clerical, from a clerical 2 to a clerical 3, they are provided they're provided a level that gives them the least amount of increase. So they may step back a level, but their overall pay would go up, their wage would go up. So they don't automatically stay at the same level.
So it really matters where they were. We're not going to make them go backwards in pay for promotion. But we're also not going to give them the experience levels when they're brand new in that position.
We've also kind of revamped the hourly schedule a couple of different times, where we removed like the first level in an effort to just like the teacher salaries to make our starting wages more competitive. And so that could also impact somebody's kind of movement through the scale.
Does that answer your question, Kelly?
Yep. It does. Does it create 20 more questions? Yes.
You mentioned this, but it seems to me that both the hourly wage schedule and the teacher pay schedule have been in the last few years upgraded and kind of
Multiple times, yes. As employee shortages have happened, we have responded. Also, as you're aware, we've had a lot of discussions with our staff about, are there ways to more effectively compensate? Are there provisions for performance pay? Or I know with our teachers, there were some barriers related to the master's lane, and we opened up the master's lane to teachers who earn the national board certification. There's been a lot of changes over the years, but I think my impression is that they don't like some stability, at least for this next year.
Well, I would like to see our teachers and our hourly staff reimbursed at a higher rate. I recognize a few things that I kind of learned as I did a little thinking and research. Like you talked about the QIC group, and they didn't mention that was a high priority. And when I went to listening sessions with elementary, middle school, and high school, the big concern was class sizes, number of sections, and if we were to go to a system that like football players system, for instance, not at the same level of football players, but their systems, it would probably cause us financial troubles that have caused the layoff teachers, and that would be a terrible thing. So I agree with what you heard and what I heard, and I think that, I'd like to see it higher. I guess this is what we have to live with.
Yeah, and to your point about Eau Claire, and I think what Dale is referencing is if the steps were paid outside of the CPI, I think that would raise the cost of this compensation plan from $733,000 to over $1 million or close to $1 million. And, Eau Claire has passed referendums. We have not. And frankly, I think you hit the nail on the head, Dale. If we're not careful with the wages and salaries, essentially we're going to have to cut teachers to pay teachers. And I'm saying teachers, but it's not just teachers, it's staff. And, then we're starting to talk about impacting opportunities for kids because we're either increasing class sizes, eliminating programs, and I don't think that's where we want to go right now.
Any other questions? Okay, so generally speaking, if a person theoretically works in the district for 20 years, paid the same position, very much less. It could be, and I haven't looked, so I couldn't have looked. All right, if there's no more questions or discussion on the compensation plan, we will move on. To discussion about a playground goal for the time support plan. This is about 2 meetings ago. And we have asked the notes to come back with an idea for what we can add to our current unit for the plan.
So you have the goal in front of you, and essentially what it says is that our Director of Buildings and Grounds will work with our elementary school principals to develop a report that will identify a prioritized list of playground needs to be shared with the board by June 30th, 2025. Also, discussing this with the principals, I have directed them to involve PTO in that process. We know that the PTOs have been very active in fundraising and being involved with our schools, and particularly our playgrounds. I will say I'm a little worried about capacity. Our work plan is huge, and everybody from our teachers to our administrators is really working hard on the many goals that we have. However, we did hear loud and clear that this is a priority, and I have talked to Kevin, and I think this is something we can get done.
And to clarify, this would be asking for kind of a needs assessment by June 30th, and then presumably our district goals and our work plan for say 5.6 would potentially have, depending on the needs assessment, potentially have the metric.
Yeah, I think that really,
Yeah.
and certainly the board consider the capital improvement plan at any point. Also, we have the strategic plan going, and I think, there'll be other things identified. And, we may have to look at a capital package. So a lot of unknowns, a lot of possibilities.
Would you anticipate this report including some price estimates, or would this be strictly a new report and then we look at bidding things out and getting more of a, it's hard to prioritize anything without having some idea that it's going to cost $200 or $3,000.
Right.
But that's also another huge time.
Yeah, I would say to start with, it'll be more of a needs assessment, but I will say the needs assessment will include items designated for immediate attention. And I think those items will be moved on quicker, which may include price estimates and may include recommendations for the use of the fund balance or other district funds, especially if there's any safety issues or anything like that that we think has to be prioritized.
As a former rights PTO person, we have vision and everything, so I'm sure we have to get that needed for additional information.
It's probably also worth mentioning, like, this could result in only some of which would rise to right? Some might be things when we're like,
Larry, I just want to say, yeah, thank you for being responsible for those discussions and for, for Kevin's work and encouraging to make this collaboration happen. It's very appreciated.
I guess I'll just ask if anyone has, to me, this, the item in quotation here about what we can specifically add to the district work plan. That looks good to me, and then we'll have anything. Thank you. Next up, we are discussing our strategic planning update.
So this is a perfect time to have this update. We finished our list, actually the last listening session is probably finishing up right now. I think it was 24 listening sessions that were hosted in the school district. And we had just terrific participation from our staff, parents, community partners. Chancellor Frank is over there right now, BW Stone. We've just had a terrific response. The next steps will include the steering committee, which has been designated. We'll start sorting through the database that's been created by our facilitators. I think Brian said there was over 4,000 comments already. So they do have a spreadsheet going, and the steering committee is going to have a tall task in front of them to try to boil that down into a recommended plan for the board. I also want to point out the next steps. There will be a survey that's going to be coming out in the next several weeks, and that survey is going to be used to help validate what was heard at the listening sessions. To really find out, does this resonate? Is the steering committee's work in alignment with what we heard? Were there things during the listening sessions that weren't, or was it missed? But those kinds of questions. So we're looking forward to working with that steering committee. That's actually going to begin Wednesday night. And then finally, I would just like to compliment the board members. You all spent a lot of extra time attending the listening sessions in a welcoming role, in a listening and observational role. I know, like, for instance, Abe, the time leader was 6:30. Yeah. But in Abe, that's one example. Then he was back at the AFC tonight. And I know many of you spent hours, daily, sat in all those staff listening sessions. All of them did. And I want to thank you for that. I think it was really important and really gave the process much more credibility. So great job.
Also impressed with the work that the team we hired is doing. I've been really impressed with it. They're handling it both swiftly and professionally, and in a very welcoming way. I think having good facilitators is essential for things to work out well. We got a good team.
I think, as long as we're talking about accommodations, I think the 14 people who were on that steering committee deserve big thanks. So, huge commitment.
Can you remind us, how is the survey going to be conducted?
I believe it's going to be in multiple formats. Certainly there'll be a digital part to that, but I know that they also plan to offer a hard copy as well. I don't know the details of how that's going to be distributed. I would imagine the school district email list would be a big piece for families, but we know that we'll have to go beyond that. We know that there's going to have to be community outreach as well. So I think that's something the steering committee will probably have some input on when we discuss the survey, and probably right away Wednesday is when we'll talk about it.
Any other questions or thoughts regarding the strategic? Right, moving along. Our next discussion item is federal policy. This was alluded to earlier. Obviously, there have been a lot of things that are in the news about
many things, but in particular that pertain to youth. So actually, I'm going to give us some information about what is out there and what we do in order to be thinking about our instruments.
So board members, I'm sure you, just like our staff, our parents, our community members are paying very close attention to the various reports of the executive orders that have come out. And I have listed them for you. And I'm not gonna read the orders, I'm just gonna read the titles. Protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship, securing our borders, defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government, protecting children from chemical and surgical mutilation, expanding educational freedom and opportunity for families, ending radical indoctrination in K-12 schooling, and keeping men out of women's sports. Those, when I've read through a ton of stuff, to me, these are the executive orders that have the most potential to impact public schools. I also want to point out that I think it's very important that we take a balanced and deliberate approach to dealing with policy changes. I know there's a lot of excitement and there's a lot of concern. There's a lot of emotion on all sides of these issues. But there is so much to consider, and there are so many intertwined rules, regulations, and intentions that we have to be careful with. My goal right now is to maintain compliance. And I think the board, I think that was discussed earlier with the Title IX policy. I think it's very important that we maintain compliance with laws. I think it's important to maintain compliance with judicial orders. I did write a school crossings about the immigration issues, and I think that was a good example where we would comply with a legal order signed by a judge. However, we would not allow the disruption of our schools that was not ordered. So, those are the kinds of tightropes that we are walking. I also want to just point out one of the attorneys that we work with, I thought, provided a very well thought out statement where she wrote, "While the substantive content of the executive order may be alarming to district officials and staff, we expect that the process described will take time and be met with legal challenges and will be flushed out, clarified, and narrowed over time on a state-by-state basis. There is no directive to school districts at this time, and we advise districts to stay the course with respect to curriculum, programs, activities, and student support." When I say that, that doesn't mean that I don't think we have to pay close attention to this or monitor it, or as rulings change, bring you recommendations for possible policy changes. But I also don't think it's wise to get the cart out before the horse. So with that, I guess I could try to answer questions. There are a lot of unknowns, but I'd also be interested in any thoughts that you would board members.
So I want to return to a couple of time codes I mentioned earlier. As we mentioned ago, and we have all the documents we through very, very carefully over the last week. There's a lot of turmoil in policies and lots of statements from our agencies that may or may not be related to actual law, legal development. That a lot of that remains to be seen. I want to amend what we said a little bit. I think we really have two primary goals. The first is serve our students and their needs. And the second is not unnecessarily expose ourselves to legitimate legal exposure. So I think when it comes to laws and judicial work, state we make would be compelling. I think that we're in a moment when lots of students and families feel they're unvalued or maybe under attack. And I think that our values and policies of the district are very important to reinforce. Not necessarily, I think, the text of them I think is quite solid, but I think I would ask the board, we suggest to the board, if we could ask the board president to maybe write a short public statement on behalf of the board that would emphasize our district's commitment to all students. And that we aim to provide an environment free from bullying, harassment, and discrimination. And that statement, I think, can draw entirely on the existing language and ambition and vision, existing policies. I think we have a good mission, a good vision, and good existing policies. I think that I hope that we can calm some of the anxiety in our community by clearly stating that we stand for those values and policies. I'm curious if people think that's a reasonable idea. Again, based entirely on our existing vision and mission and policies, but to say these are what we value as a district and serve all students, and we will not, be expect an environment free of bullying, harassment, and discrimination we work to achieve.
It's extremely necessary.
And not only students but families are supporting our community, our not just our.
And Sam,
It needs to be as far reaching as we can possibly have it.
When you say part between, you mean like how
Really get it out there.
we can use all these, I assume we'll be able to use the same communication channels for the.
Absolutely. Would you like to bring it to the next board meeting and before look at it and then distribute from there, or are you hoping to do that before?
My personal view is I think that the actual material the board's produced over years is actually quite good, and I think I trust Rachel to pare it down to something which is digestible to the public. A paragraph maybe a little, something that's clear and distinct.
Just to clarify, I wasn't intending that as oversight of Rachel.
Yeah.
I was intending it as a mechanism for broadcast.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And it's kind of a kickoff.
Yeah.
But if you prefer to, if timeliness is a bigger concern.
I personally think timeliness is critical. I think for the last 2 weeks it felt like a decade
Sure.
to many of us, and I think that it's I think timeliness is important.
very soon as possible.
And we still can broadcast the next board meeting.
If I could offer one more thought. I absolutely think providing them the insurance is important. I also think the board might want to consider some sort of piece that comments on following the law. Because again, there are a lot of strong feelings on all sides of these issues. And I definitely know that the board and I want to provide statements of support. I wonder if it would be wise to also include something about following laws.
We do executive orders, they're not involved. They're going to have, and I feel like the content that she included for the, executive orders are linked to that. I think they obviously have been there to review and review it after the decision. So I think we're being proactive and taking a step back to not react in initiative membership, making changes and things. Obviously, we're abiding by the law by passing the Title IX, going back to 2020. I feel like that would be a statement from there that they're saying we're doing. I personally wouldn't be continuing to bring me up on. We're part of the school board, it's what we do, we follow the law. I think that's, I don't think we need to do something like that.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that we are communicating to the community that we follow the law by our actions. Is there anyone who is, something I take as our mission statement, our value statement, there are items from our harassment and bullying policy, for example, that has all been language approved by the board. Is there anyone who's concerned about me using those resolutions that we go out in a timely manner, so that we wouldn't need to bring it back to another meeting for approval?
Just a point of clarification, would we be putting this out as a message from the school board or from the school district or just that piece of it?
I think from the school board.
I think it's from the board. Yes, not taken by Joe or the administration, it's taken by these 9 people acting as a board.
And I guess that's another piece of the question, everybody's permission to read it in the statement, they can do it, let's, further the statement.
So it's just something that came on the resolution that I've taken on public words. Is that mean that we sign it? Or did it just?
I think this is a statement, not a resolution. I think if it was a resolution, that we would want to bring it back to the meeting. Which we certainly could talk about, but I think if we're going to make something that's called a resolution, that's
I guess just keeping in mind, it's not, it doesn't really change this necessarily, but, we have a state, that state standard and state limits, and a lot of these things are, again, our state limits, and from what I understand, I talked to superintendent, Mr. Bell, not Joe, and he said that really the state overrides the competitive, that's what he said.
I think it's going to depend on every single little piece. I think there's going to be cases where one or the other is going to be primary. We're going to learn a lot about that in the coming months.
Sure.
But to Amy's point, there are a number of collision courses
Yeah.
that are set up. And there is going to be a collision between state law, federal law, local policy. And that's where it's set to navigate.
I would imagine a resolution might involve a little more than our, like, working from our current daily salary. So I think it could be valuable to do that with essentially from what we already have, maybe we can manage the battle. Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of activity in the coming weeks and months, and it may seem at some point that it's relevant and to consider a resolution, and that would be something we would probably have a bunch of separate meetings where we can put that and take on.
Not to belabor this, but I do want to just clarify. When I made my suggestion, I wasn't suggesting anything in relation to the executive orders. If you notice the WMI statement, and many organizations have come out and talked about that they wouldn't follow the law. And I'm not trying to talk you into that, but that's just where that came from. I wasn't suggesting that they were going to follow the or in most cases, they don't have legal bearing.
Sorry. Any final thoughts? And I think, oh yeah, of course. Thank you for your patience. I just want to note that our agenda item is discussion of federal policy changes based on review. We have been discussing a board statement. Is there anything else related to the federal policy changes that folks have to ask questions about or have any additional questions?
I have a question about, just if you could summarize, Joe, the relationships we have with different law firms and how when you have the clarification, kind of who you call and how does that get related to the board? Just kind of clarify your process.
Sure. So the Wisconsin Association of School Boards has attorneys on staff. And generally, they provide policy advice general legal advice in the precept of this is what we're telling schools. And a call like that has no charge. It's part of our duties, it's part of our membership, it's being part of the school board association. So that's usually where I start. But again, that's more generalized advice. Also, we do subscribe to the policy resource guide that is offered by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards. And many times the answers can be found there. We also receive many legal publications. A number of those come from my membership and the Wisconsin Association of School District Administrators group. Also, Sam is part of the HR group. Brian's part of LawSaw, which is... Thank you. Katie's part of the tech group. Tony's... So all of us in our associations, for our we receive publications that often include policy and legal advice as well. When there's a specific issue specific to our school district or a specific decision that has to be made where the general advice is not sufficient, then we use retained counsel. Many of our issues that we have retained counsel for in the past, whether it be student expulsions or employment-related issues, things like that, Wells Riley, Boswell Blair has been a firm that our district is associated with for decades. But we also use other firms for specific specialization and specific attorneys for specialization, especially along special education law or other issues where those attorneys may have expertise. When it rises to that level, we then, have to purchase those services. And then in terms of relating to the board aid, I think it just really depends on what the situation is. If it's a private student matter like an expulsion, that wouldn't be related to the board except for the expulsion hearing. Most employment issues would not come before the board unless it was in this type of situation. But something like this with policy advice, where we have a specific question about our specific policy, that is shared with the board.
Thank you. That's very clarifying. One thing I'd be curious about to discuss at a future meeting is what I know. I think we have some kind of legal insurance for cases of lawsuits or some base coverage on retainer. Kind of what are the? I don't think answer now, but I'm curious what kind of parameters of the support that you have or the contracts that you have with this new law firm. I think, I'm hoping that the Menomonie school district never has to be part of a suit of any sort whatsoever. But I'm also, I think we've been reading a lot of court cases about school last week and trying to figure out what they mean and doing the best we possibly can for our students. And I think that I just am kind of curious about, the architecture and contracts we have in place regarding what we have covered in our budget already versus not. So if that could be any kind of discussed on some future minor.
Sure. I guess in the meantime, I would say board members could go back to the last legal services report and at least give you the budgeted piece. We don't necessarily keep a firm or a particular attorney on retainer. And that's typically how it works with schools, and schools our size, is that we are not charged unless we call with a specific request for service. So there aren't necessarily agreements in place. Now, the firms do share their cost structure with us, so we can ask them ahead of time. In terms of the insurance, we do have liability insurance. So in the event of a lawsuit, EEOC or potentially Title IX or something like that. One of our first calls will be to our insurance carrier, and then the insurance carriers are really good in terms of kind of providing us an option that they will fit within our coverage.
Thank you.
Let's hope we don't.
Yeah.
Let's hope we don't need to learn any more about that.
For the last 3 years or so, so and our legal fees have been low.
One of the
I should
benefits-
make, maybe this year, maybe we might, all 3 of those years. And
One of the benefits of having an experienced administrative team. That's right. Lower legal.
Any additional questions or discussion? If not, we will move on to legislative advocacy. So, but based on our, I think, our meeting a month ago, we're having a message drafted relating to advocacy for the budget discussions. There are there's a committee that I mentioned here about the finance committee hearings and opportunities for public input on those. Yeah, do you want to say anything about that process?
I did. When this was discussed, and I went back and watched the meeting, and thanks for telling me, Steve. I think the discussion at that time, I think we felt like it was going to happen a little quicker than it has. And frankly, we're just kind of in a holding pattern. I think when it's going to go, it's going to go quick. But until we start receiving guidance from WASB, from our different organizations, and we get more information about listing schedule, and things like that, there's not a whole lot of structure to putting together an advocacy statement, although I have been looking at drafting some pieces up. But, so I don't know if it's going to be the next meeting or if it's going to be in March, but I would expect it sometime in the next month.
To your point, that once it starts to go through, I think having a statement drafted that we all can kind of sign on to and be ready to use when the rubber hits the road, we can do it now.
Are any of the, planning to go to the day of the capital? The day of the capital? Oh, wow, fantastic. Thank you.
So March 12th is the Wisconsin Association of School Boards Day at the Capitol, where they help guide members to their legislators and advocate directly in ways person to person. So thanks for you folks going to that. Wonderful.
My understanding of the Boston directs that pretty well. It's my work from the people, but I don't know if we could, I guess, maybe before that, if you wanted to discuss about things, of interest of the board, but maybe we're just going to add on there to discuss.
We would have legislative advocacy on that agenda that week, so it would be a good time. I'm not going to bring it right, it's March 12th, I think, which is a Wednesday, so March 10th. We would
Yeah, I think our intention was to have it at the meeting of the month, but just the way things have worked out in the past, that's the case, but we can put it on date.
I think we should, for the
And when you attend that, if you do receive information from the school board association or in your communications with the different legislators, please grab a copy or share it with me, because as we develop our advocacy, I think that would be helpful.
Am I right in thinking, Amy, have you gone to the yes. Okay, cool. Is there anything we should know?
It's really good. It's very well done. Usually in the morning we have some speakers, they talk about some of the things that they're costing, the place where I was wanting to do, and maybe even legislative show for that, and listen as well, and talk about stuff. And then after the morning, they're on for lunch break or something. And then in the afternoon, they schedule meetings with the legislators. And I can tell you, sometimes you will see the actual legislator, or you may see one of the staff. So, and it depends on what's going on. If the meetings that they have to be at, or whatever. But it's really a cool thing. I just love it. Just anyway.
Oh, Bill. I also want to point out, I shared a draft of a bill that was sent to me from Rob Private asking for input, and the bill is a cell phone ban in schools. And the way that I answered him, and I apologize, I intended to put the correspondence in the law, is I am very concerned about cell phone use, and I think our school policies have reflected that. I think that the draft bill is pretty well aligned with our current policies and student handbooks. However, I also think that local control for school boards and having school boards make those kinds of decisions is really where that decision should be made. We have struggled a little bit in our administrative discussions because in a way it'd be nice to have a little more teeth and a little more cover because it is consistently a difficult discussion with certain students and certain families. So I'm not necessarily opposed to the cell phone bill. However, generally I think these kinds of decisions should be made locally.
And can you, is it your understanding, because this bill actually is way more than cell phone. This would not affect students' ability to use Chromebooks or computers for classwork. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. In fact, I don't even think it would restrict their ability to use a cell phone for classwork as long as it was deemed to be appropriate by the instructor.
It's still, as it's written, doesn't really address the way that some students use devices for accessibility things. And so that's a piece of the local control guide. It is important to address if they're using it for translation, or if they're using it for marketing. Any of the myriad of ways that people could be using a device in a way that wouldn't be, that would be enhancing their educational experience rather than detracting.
I think line 14, where it says the use authorized by a teacher for educational purposes during instructional time would cover that. But you're right, it's not specifically called out.
It seems like line 12 discusses.
Oh, there you go.
But I mean, that could be one of the ones, I guess. We're not writing.
On the analysis page, number 3 says for use, use included in an individual education program or 504 plan. So I think that's
Something.
the student is comfortable.
I think the perspective you expressed, Joe, is exactly right, that as a mayor, we have to align with our current desires and policies, but the idea that, ultimately the school board and honestly the principals are the ones who really need to make this decision. I'm also concerned about the aspect of, once it becomes a law, whether it's, presumably civil, like it becomes part of the judicial system, as opposed to, going to, detention or missing your practice. It's not no longer a school issue, but a student behaviors becomes an issue of enforcement at the state level, and that has all kinds of consequences I don't think we really want to bring into the bill.
I think it's like a little silly to be, there's just like so many issues people have and like the cell phone bills that we're going
Oh, I don't know.
I'm not saying it's not important. I agree with you that it should be, like, it's very clearly something a district should do. But I just like, and I feel like we had a good grasp on it, and having we were at the high school, Mr. Eric, thank you, and all of the little computers were leaving our cell phones, and then my son's in middle school, and he's like actually terrified of taking one.
That's right. But so many districts don't. One thing that's interesting to your point, Amy, I actually think this is a bill that would bind schools to adopt this policy rather than bind students.
Correct.
Which would be better.
Nothing really in here jumped off the page to me as something we are already doing. Everything's, every single emergencies or threats, managed healthcare, IEPs, medical plans, are authorized by a teacher. So if a child needs something, then the teacher will offer it. Our educators are already doing all this.
It's not a bad, but I didn't. I am extremely concerned. The amount of addiction that we see in our kids, and well, yeah, and adults. I mean, and I'll tell you right now, if anybody's watching, I really think that parents need to consider if they're not already maintaining devices outside of the bedroom. We have kids that are all night on their devices. It's not good. And then the behaviors, I mean, it's actually been compared to withdrawal. When they come to school, they're not allowed to have it. I think we're going to look back 10 years from now, and I really changed my tune on this. I was one of those promoters of, hey, let's use the tools. And that was a big thing about a decade ago. It's changed. My mind has totally changed on it. I think they're tools. I think they should be used as tools. But I think it's really been overdone. I'm concerned with the health. I'm really concerned with what's doing the health of our kids.
At one of the listening sessions, there was a parent or a community member, I would say, that shared experience working in Silicon Valley and the internal research that this person was permitted to see was not what we are hearing from the general population about the damages that screen time is doing to us. And I found that he continued on to talk about it. I thought that long and
Any final questions or discussion related to legislative advocacy? Everybody. Next up, we have items related to next meeting date, board committees, and reports. As has been discussed, this Wednesday, February 12th, we have the Strategic Planning Committee meeting for the first time at 6:30 at the evening. Strategic Planning Committee meeting at 6 at the ASD. February 24th, we have a special school board meeting. We will be at River Heights with a tour available at 5 p.m. for board members who wish to attend. March 10th, we have our regular school board meeting at 5:45 in Conda. Wadsworth Day at the Capitol, as I mentioned, is on March 12th. I remember that. March 17th, 21st, it's spring break for the school, and we will have a special school board meeting March 24th at 7. Any questions related to next meeting date or meeting? Seeing none, we have a closed session on the agenda for tonight, so I would like to suggest we take a 5-minute recess. Hopefully we can turn around in 5 minutes and come back to some questions. Thank you everybody for being here today.